Hey guys, tonight we drift far from the flicker of your bedside lamp and into the timeless sands of the ancient world, a place where the sun ruled as fiercely as kings and every stone whispered stories older than memory. Tonight, you are no traveller. You are no visitor from a distant land. You are a servant in the court of a living god, a Pharaoh's servant. From the first rays of dawn to the long shadows of twilight, you will live as they lived, labour as they laboured, and after one day, perhaps you will agree, it truly sucked to be a servant in ancient Egypt. So before you get too cosy, feel free to like the video and subscribe, but only if you truly enjoy what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now dim the lights, maybe switch on a fan for that gentle background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. We begin with the dawn. It's dark, not the soft, quiet dark of a modern night. This is a dense, heavy silence that presses in from every corner. The Nile breeze is cool but dry, and it carries with it the smell of clay, straw, and distant smoke. You lie on your side, barely cushioned by a reed mat stretched across packed earth. The air smells faintly of oil lamps and the sweat of too many sleepers in too small a space. This is your home, a single low-ceilinged room shared with 3 others, all servants like you. The voice comes before the light. Up! The temple wakes. A barked order, no hint of kindness. And just like that, the day has begun. Your limbs are stiff, as if the air turned to stone in the night. Your feet find the floor, hard, dusty, uneven. You don't complain. You don't speak. You rise. Outside, the stars still cling to the sky, stubborn against the approaching dawn. You take the chipped clay pot in the corner, yesterday's water, now cool and slightly cloudy. You pour it over your hands, your face, your mouth. No soap, no towel, just habit. You dress in your linen wrap, bleached pale by years of washing but still presentable. Your hair is tied back beneath a thin cloth. No jewellery, no sandals yet. The Pharaoh's court does not tolerate noise, so your footsteps, even on rough stone, are silent. You make your way toward the temple, enormous and still cloaked in shadow. Torches flicker along the carved pillars, casting strange movements in the eyes of painted gods. And then, silence. You enter the chamber of morning preparation. Only whispers are allowed here, if that. The Pharaoh, the chosen of Ra, does not wake alone. He is to be anointed, bathed, robed, and perfumed with the oils of distant lands, all before he opens his eyes. You are one of many, a line of servants, attendants, and priests, each with a role. Yours today is to carry the tray of unguents, thick, fragrant pastes, used to smooth the divine skin. The tray is heavy, gilded edges, carefully polished. Your fingers tremble slightly. You hope no one notices. The door opens. A hush falls. There he is, the Pharaoh. He does not look at you. He does not see you. He is a god made flesh. And your only duty is to remain unseen, silent, and precise. The ceremony unfolds slowly. Chanted hymns, scented water. His feet are dried with linen, his eyes outlined with kohl, his shoulders draped in leopard skin and gold. At one moment, a priest waves incense. At another, a fan-bearer stirs the air with ostrich plumes. And you kneel, head bowed, still holding the tray. You feel the sweat gather at your temple, not from heat, but fear. Last week, one servant dropped a jar of frankincense. He was gone before the sun reached noon. The Pharaoh rises, clothed and powerful. He moves toward the morning council. The priests follow. The scribes murmur in his wake. And then, you are alone. Your part is done. for now. You return to the servants' wing, a courtyard of quiet chaos, men and women washing robes, sharpening knives, scrubbing copper, and muttering about tasks still unfinished. You crouch by the wall next to a cracked bowl. Inside, beans, maybe lentils, flatbread torn from a larger round, tough and dry, no honey, no figs, certainly no roast duck. You eat in silence. There's not much to say. No one wants to talk about how long the Pharaoh stood still today, or how the high priest glanced at your feet, perhaps noticing they weren't washed. That could mean punishment, or worse, reassignment. You chew slowly, not for savouring, but to delay returning to work, because the second meal is hours away and there's much left to do. Your next task is on the western terrace, a corridor used only by the nobility. Its walls are lined with carvings, gods, beasts, fields of barley, all lovingly painted in shades of red and gold. You've walked this hallway hundreds of times, but you've never paused to look. Not really, because your eyes are always on the floor. That's your job today. Polish the stone tiles until they shine. You kneel, you scrub. The cloth in your hand is rough, soaked in vinegar and sand. You work in small circles, careful not to scratch the carvings near the baseboards. Occasionally a sandal passes, a noblewoman adorned in perfume and lapis, a priest arms crossed behind his back, lips moving in silent prayer. None speak to you, but their silence is preferable. You've heard what happens when they do. One word from a favoured courtier and a servant can be sent to work on the river barges, or worse, the tombs. You keep scrubbing. A small cat struts past, tail high. It's wearing a collar of beaten gold. It pauses beside you, sniffs, meows, knocks over a painted cup with the flick of its paw. You clean it, without a sound. The hallway is almost silent, only the soft sweep of your cloth and the occasional hiss of sand beneath your knees. But even in silence, there is tension. The wrong whisper, the wrong movement, the wrong smell, it can all be punished. You remember what happened to Mahai, the boy who used too much frankincense during the cleansing of the Pharaoh's sandals. Too strong a scent, they said. The God King's nose was offended. Mahai hasn't been seen in 4 days. Some say he was reassigned to quarry labour, to the cliffs beyond the river where stones are carved for the tombs of the dead. Others whisper that he now lies beneath one of those stones. You shake the thought from your head. There is no time for fear, only for precision. You dip your cloth again, wring it, continue scrubbing. A feather from a noble's fan drifts past. You catch it, hand it to a passing attendant. No thanks, no glance, just more work. Everywhere there are eyes, carved into walls, painted onto urns, staring from the lids of alabaster jars. But more than the art, it's the living eyes that matter. The steward, stern, silent. His expression never changes. He walks the corridors at unpredictable times, checking the angles of towels and the alignment of trays. There's also Satep, the high overseer of domestic service. His sandals slap the floor with a rhythm that haunts your dreams. He does not yell. He does not strike. He simply speaks your name once, and you know you're finished. You move with careful grace, not too fast. That looks frantic. Not too slow. That looks lazy. The art of surviving as a servant is knowing how to move just enough to avoid being noticed, to be part of the furniture. Reliable, but invisible. Later, you're called to the outer chamber of the Pharaoh's banquet hall. Not to serve, you are far too low for that, but to deliver a basket of pomegranate seeds, figs, and imported grapes. You carry it on your shoulder, balanced carefully, precisely. The fruit is perfect. Someone else polished it until it gleamed. As you walk, You catch a glimpse through the curtain. The Pharaoh reclines on cushions dyed with crushed beetle shell, brilliant reds and purples. A gold chalice rests in his hand. A woman fans him with palm fronds while a musician plucks a harp. Laughter. Not cruel. Just light. Carefree. You haven't laughed like that since before you became a palace servant. The curtain drops. You move on. By now the sun is high. Even the palace walls, thick with mud brick and stone, cannot fully keep out the heat. You've been sent to the outer courtyards, where the ground is hotter than a flame, and shade is reserved for cats and courtiers. You carry water in ceramic jugs. You refill the footbaths near the garden paths. You sweep sand from steps that will be dusty again in 5 minutes. Sweat runs down your back, into your eyes, into your mouth, but you do not stop. The midday pause exists only for the upper classes. For servants, there is only motion. A priest walks past, murmuring to himself, robe flowing. He drops a scroll. You retrieve it, fast but not too fast. You bow and offer it to him. He does not look at you. He takes it with fingers that never touch the ground and continues walking. You exhale slowly, still here, still breathing, still unnoticed. There's talk of an upcoming festival, something honouring Hathor, goddess of joy, beauty, and music. The nobility are excited. They speak of dancing, of lotus wine, of masks made from gold foil. But for you, it means double work. More feasts, more linens, more trays, more sweeping up afterward. You'll work through the night, holding trays of roasted goose while nobles throw flower petals and argue about omens. If you're lucky, you might eat the bones. And you won't dance. You'll hold torches. You'll pick up dropped bracelets. You'll clean vomit from painted tiles before dawn. The Pharaoh might smile. The guests might weep with joy. But you will just keep moving and praying that nothing spills. In the late afternoon, your supervisor, Cayman, pulls you aside. There's a complaint, he says softly. Something about the storeroom. Your heart lurches. Complaints can end lives. But he doesn't elaborate, just points you toward the east wing and tells you to check the linens. You walk there alone. The corridor is quiet. Too quiet. You begin counting folded cloths. 10, 20, 30. One is missing. Your hands begin to shake. You search. Behind baskets, under benches, in the shadow of the jar rack. Nothing. You don't know if it was misplaced, or if someone took it and plans to blame you. So you replace it, quickly, quietly. You fold one from the laundry yourself, match the others. You know you're not supposed to, but you also know, in the palace, survival depends on solving problems before anyone else notices they exist. You finish, you leave. No one saw you, but your stomach feels hollow. The morning had been filled with sacred rituals, tight-lipped silence, and expectations heavier than any stone hauled in pyramid quarries. But as the sun climbs to its highest perch, you find yourself swallowed by the searing heat of noon, a force as relentless as the overseer's eyes. You're summoned again, not to the Pharaoh directly, but to a lesser noble's quarters. He's a cousin of the divine ruler, or perhaps a half-brother. The royal family tree branches in confusing directions, and you've long stopped trying to follow the bloodlines. All you need to know is this: he's important, and if his sandals are too tight, that might just become your problem. His chamber is dim, cool, perfumed with imported cedar and crushed myrrh. A fanboy, not in the way you're thinking, but an actual servant with a towering ostrich feather fan, stands ready near the noble's low couch. You kneel quietly and hold out a tray of honeyed figs and beer. The noble doesn't even glance at you. Instead, he mumbles about dreams and omens, while a favoured concubine paints symbols on his arm in fragrant oils. He laughs. You do not. You're invisible again. But you can feel your knees starting to ache from the cold stone floor. You hope he dismisses you before your legs give out. Servants don't faint, they collapse. And collapses bring punishment, not pity. You manage to shuffle out just as he swats at the fanboy. Poor boy twitched at a fly, and now he'll miss dinner. You carry on down the corridor, arms heavy with linen robes that must be re-washed, dried, and refolded, just in case someone decides they don't like the crease in the current ones. Your tunic clings to your back, damp with sweat and the scent of work. Outside, the midday sun pulses like a living thing. You take one careful breath before ducking into the linen hall. The linen hall is quieter than the court, but not by much. A dozen servants hunch over vats of water and lye, scrubbing and wringing and laying out the Pharaoh's personal garments with a reverence usually reserved for religious icons. You join them, settling into the repetitive rhythm of labour. Scrub, rinse, wring, fold. The smell is sharp, soap and heat and bodies too busy to care. But there's a comfort here. The overseers come less often. The noise is mostly humming and whispered stories. You catch one girl murmuring a tale about a crocodile god who fell in love with a mortal baker. It's absurd, and somehow sweet. You almost laugh. You don't. Instead, you focus on folding a tunic. Perfectly symmetrical, the way the Pharaoh likes it, the way he might never see, but that you must ensure is flawless, or else. You glance out the window. The sliver of Nile visible through the latticed brick is tantalizing. A boat floats lazily past. For a heartbeat, you imagine diving in. Just for a moment. The cool splash of water. The gasp of freedom. But only for a moment. Someone clears their throat. Back to the linen. By the time you're called again, your arms are jelly, your fingers puckered and raw. Now it's off to the garden. You're not planting or trimming. Number. You're helping prepare it for the Pharaoh's evening stroll. This means collecting any fallen petals, brushing clean the pathways with a palm broom, and chasing away ibises who've decided the fish pond is their new bathhouse. One of them stares you down, bold little creature, beady eyes full of disdain. You wave your arms, it squawks but doesn't move. You sigh. You throw a date pit near the far wall. It waddles after it. Victory. You return to straightening the small pebble path near the lotus pool where golden carp flick their tails lazily. Behind you, someone coughs. You stiffen, turn, and it's an older woman, another servant, silently handing you a fresh cloth to wipe your brow. You nod, whisper thanks. Here in the garden, beneath the carved pillars and the slow hum of insects, time feels quieter. The Pharaoh rarely notices the effort put into such details. But if a single flower is out of place, if the air is too dry or the water too murky, someone will be blamed. Probably you. So you stay until the sun tilts westward and your own shadow stretches longer than the palace gate. On your way back through the halls, you pass near the scribe's chamber. The door is slightly open. You slow your steps. They're discussing something. Maps of Nubia, trade expeditions, and a newly acquired dwarf for the court's amusement. Their words swirl together like incense smoke, too elevated for your world, too far removed from the scrubbing and folding that marks your every breath. You wish you could remember how to read. Your mother taught you once, long ago, before debt stole your family's freedom. You remember symbols on clay, the curl of a feather in ink, but that was another life. Now you eavesdrop for knowledge you can't use, like a fish watching birds fly overhead. One scribe laughs. The Pharaoh dreams of conquering more than land, he says. He wants his name sung by the stars. You wonder what stars would think of a man like that. Would they whisper his greatness, or laugh at how even the most powerful king still sleeps and dreams and one day dies? A guard notices you standing still. You bow, apologize, move on. As twilight bleeds into the marble corridors, the palace changes. The servants move faster, urgently. You return to the inner sanctum, where you help light the oil lamps, every flame placed in accordance with ritual, aligned to represent celestial harmony. A single misplaced wick could be seen as a bad omen. No pressure. Once the lamps are lit, you carry warmed jugs to the bathing chamber. No ordinary splash and scrub here. The Pharaoh's bath is a sacred performance, petal-infused, scented with oils gathered from distant lands, stirred like a potion of immortality. You pour the water slowly, evenly. You're not alone. Several others help, each moving in rhythm like dancers in a silent performance. Every motion matters. Each ripple has meaning. And through it all, the Pharaoh does not speak. He simply reclines, his eyes half-lidded, lost in thought, or dreams, or judgment. You never know. When he finally stands and exits, wrapped in embroidered linen, you exhale, without realizing you'd been holding your breath. One more task complete. Almost. You're sent to the outer chamber, where the Pharaoh's evening meal is to be arranged. You do not cook, but you help present the dishes. Flatbread still warm, honey-glazed goose, roasted beans, and wine the colour of pomegranate skin. Every dish must be laid in a specific order. Meat must face east, bread to the west, fruit at the centre, for balance. You carry trays one by one, careful not to bump a knee or tremble too hard. One servant dropped a bowl of figs last month. He now scrubs latrines in a village far from the Nile. You remind yourself, your hands are steady. You are quiet. You are invisible. When the last dish is placed, you back out of the room, steps measured, eyes down. Only once the door is shut do you allow yourself to blink freely again. The sun is low now, not gone, but leaning westward, stretching the shadows of the columns across the palace floors like fingers reaching for silence. The heat eases, slightly, but your day is far from over. You're called to the inner chamber hall, where linens must be folded with corners that meet like mirrored pyramids. A royal attendant passes and pauses, checking your work. Not a word, not a nod, just a look, and then he's gone. You fold faster. You take a sip from a clay cup, barely cool water, but it softens your throat. You lean against the wall, the stone surprisingly warm. Your mind begins to drift, not in panic, not in urgency, but in something like peace. There's something different about this moment. Maybe it's the stillness, maybe it's the softness of distant flute music, but something in you starts to loosen. You think about your mother's stories, of boats drifting under moonlight, of stars being the eyes of ancestors, of servants who, when they die, are reborn as falcons that soar across the desert wind. You don't believe it fully, but tonight, it's nice to pretend. The palace, the toil, the voices, the demands, they blur at the edges, and in their place, a vision begins. You see yourself, not as a servant, but as someone else entirely, a scribe perhaps, or a builder of tombs, or even just a fisherman on the Nile. Your hands are free. The sun warms your skin, not burns it. The Pharaoh's voice is just a rumour carried on wind. You breathe in, deeply, and the weight of the day, slowly, quietly, lifts. The stars above you begin to multiply. The silence grows softer, not heavier. You don't realize your eyes have closed, but they have. And so, your world begins to drift. You are no longer in the servant's nook. You're floating, somewhere in between stone and sky. The palace fades behind you. You don't hear footsteps anymore. No calls, no orders, no wait, just the sound of your own breath. And the river, the Nile. It stretches before you like a mirror, black and silver beneath the stars. You're on a boat now, a small one, quiet. It moves without oars. The water laps softly against the wooden hull, and the sails do not flap. They glide. You are alone, but not lonely. Not tonight. On the banks of the Nile, palm trees sway like shadows dancing to forgotten songs. You pass fishermen's torches, still glowing from earlier, abandoned now as their owners sleep. The fields are still. The reeds murmur in hushed tones. The moon reflects in the water, not whole, not broken, just drifting with you, and above more stars than you ever thought could exist. They flicker like soft-spoken promises, ancient ones, maybe made by servants just like you, centuries before. You lie back in the boat. The wood is firm but cool, comforting. Your fingers trail in the water. The river is endless tonight, endless and gentle. Somewhere far ahead, music plays, not loud, just a melody. Maybe a flute, maybe a harp, or maybe it's only in your head. Either way, you don't question it. You don't need to. Everything here makes sense, even if nothing is spoken. You pass through a narrow channel where statues of forgotten gods rise on either side, jackal-headed, ibis-beaked, lion-faced and serene. They do not judge you. They simply observe. And for the first time in forever, you feel as though you belong, not because of your work, not because of your rank, but because you are here, present, drifting, still. The Nile opens into a vast marsh, known in old whispers as the Field of Reeds. This, they say, is paradise. You see tall golden grasses waving slowly, papyrus flowers swaying like dancers in prayer, lotus blossoms as wide as your hands float beside the boat. Birds chirp softly from hidden nests. The stars here feel closer, so close you could reach out and pluck one from the sky like fruit. And the air, it's warm, not hot, just warm enough to hold you, to wrap around your shoulders like a memory. Somewhere near, a voice, soft where familiar, maybe your mother, maybe your grandmother, maybe someone from a life you've forgotten. It says, "You've done enough for today," and you believe it, your hands finally resting, your chest rising and falling with no weight. The palace, the robes, the orders, they're all far behind you now. The gods may still be watching, but they are silent tonight. Even they understand the need to rest. The stars shimmer once more, then begin to blur, not disappear, just melt into each other like paint in water, like light passing through silk, and you melt with them. There is no separation now, no servant, no Pharaoh, no robes or orders or marble floors, only stillness, only the boat, the night, the drifting, and the dream. If the palace was a place of labour, the dream is a place of peace, and you've earned it. You are not forgotten. You are not just a shadow. You were always here, beneath the stone, behind the curtain, beyond the torchlight. The ones who built this world, they sleep now, and so do you. Let the Nile carry you. Let the stars watch over you. Let the weight fall away. Just rest. You're safe now. You're free. Sleep well.